welcome everyone. My name is Giuseppa from Career Service of Domus Academy. Welcome to Connecting the Dots. Connecting the Dots is a webinar dedicated to our successful alumni around the world. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I was saying that Connecting the Dots is a webinar dedicated to our successful alumni around the world that are now design professionals. And this event is organized by the Career Service of Domus Academy and the Alumni Department, and it's done in collaboration with our faculty. So it's with pleasure that I welcome Manuela Zavattaro. Manuela is a user experience design lead at Google, based in San Francisco. So good morning, Manuela. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon and good morning.
Good afternoon and good morning. Also, our students are connecting from all over the world, probably. So this webinar is moderated by Michele Aquila, our program leader of the Masters in Interaction and Service Design. Ciao. Michele, I leave you the words so you can present the webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Giuseppa. Ciao, Manuela.
Ciao.
now the presentation is not on, so we should see each other better.
Yes, correct.
Thank you for being here. And I would like also to thank you also the people who joined this session. I also see I see current students. I see past students. I hope more will join. I also see Paolo Rini, who moderated the previous sessions. Ciao everyone. We will have time to discuss later. So while now after this short intro, we will discuss a bit on some topics with Manuela about Domus, about her career, about the future. And then we will have time for a Q&A session. If you want, you can post your questions in the chat. We will answer later, so in the last session, the last part of the session. And when you can, if you want, you can talk or activate your camera as you prefer. So about this, so these were just some technical aspects of this conversation. Now let's go back to Manuela. And Manuela has been a student in 2002. She attended the Master in Interaction Design, and then Manuela also worked as a tutor in Domus for about 3 years, if I don't go wrong.
Correct.
We met for the first time here in Milan during Interaction 20 in February, before all this craziness started. It looks like a century ago. Now, so I'm happy to meet again. And if you want to introduce yourself, like what you're doing now, where you are, and then we can move on to some topic.
Sure. Thank you, Michele. Hello, everyone. As Michele and Giuseppe said, I'm Manuela, or Manu for people that know me personally. I've studied in Domus Academy in 2002. Since then, I worked in Domus Academy, supporting the students. Then I moved to the UK, and after that, I landed in San Francisco, where I now lead a small team at Google and Google Maps. Then take care of merchants and how can we help them to be present in Maps and Google Search.
Thanks. I also I had the chance to speak to Roberto Panzolli.
Oh yeah. Of course.
And I discovered that you work together in the same team, right?
We do. We do.
Okay.
Yeah, he's based in Zurich, and I'm based in the headquarters in Mountain View. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Fantastic.
So And also Roberto is studied in Domus some years after you. So again, we started to connect the dots, and it was
the world is very small, and the world of interaction design is even smaller. Yeah, and I think I also I saw that there are many other people that are in our team that they went through Domus Academy. So I guess again, it's smaller and more.
Okay. So let's start to explore a bit your background and why did you choose Domus Academy. So how you discovered Domus and what you did before, because today we should also introduce to also to potential students.
Of course.
What is Domus? Yeah.
Okay, so at the I studied at Politecnico, and I studied I think it's still called Disegno Industriale. It was a bachelor, and I think now it's validated as a bachelor and a master because the new regulation changed. At that time, when I did Disegno Industriale, I think it was the first time ever that it was founded, that course. So I think the way how the course was organized was very experimental, was really following the Bauhaus and how Maldonado wanted the course. So we were asked to every year to study a different discipline or different facet of design. So we were asked to do interior design, product design, service design, as well as visual design. So because they really believed in how a designer should be as a 360, it's not just only a very specialist. And I'm very pleased, and actually that was the way how I entered the design world, because it gave me that vision. After that, I graduated. I got very passionate about communication, visual design, and I started doing my first website when back in the late 90s. And I got very passionate about also service design. So I tried to connect all those dots again with my final project, with my thesis. Why Domus? I've been very lucky in my path at Politecnico. I already met Andrea Branzi, Ezio Manzini, some of the pillars of Domus Academy. So I really knew them. And after I graduated, I was waiting for my career to start, and I think Italy at that time wasn't in a great economical, stage. So I took advantage of a scholarship that I found. I think through the Corriere della Sera there was a scholarship, and for Domus Academy, and because I knew then some of the great minds of design were there, I was like, well, why not? I apply and see what happened. And I was very lucky. I was selected, and I entered the world of interaction design. I actually, when I applied, there's a funny thing. I wasn't even sure exactly what interaction design was. I think the discipline wasn't yet formed and defined as it is now, right? So I guess somehow we helped to define the discipline in the past decade. Yeah. That and then the rest is history, right? Like, it was a fantastic year. I loved it. It was one of the best years of my life. I also learned.
How many were you in the class?
I think interaction was only 12.
Okay.
I think but it was very, very small number. So we became like brothers and sisters. We were spending 12, 15 hours a day. But I think we were still in a original Domus Academy location. But I think the strength of that year of 2002 was the entire group, not only interaction design. We were all very, very good friends amongst all of the disciplines, right? There was fashion, there was industrial design, urban management was the first year, and all of us. We were a big family. We were like 100.
Yeah, that feeling is still here. So spending 1 year here all together still creates that sense of family among the students.
Absolutely,
I guess
absolutely.
that,
And the fact that we were working across disciplines also helped to create that bond. And we also worked for most of the project, except the last one, in groups. So you had to exchange, you had to learn actually how to work with other people, which was fantastic.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that I studied architecture, so I was trained to work in group, maybe also at Polytechnic, but sometimes that's a stress, let's say, one of the most challenging aspects of
Oh
Domus,
yeah.
working in groups. So, but we still believe it's a really important attitude to carry on. And do you remember, so during the year, which was the project that you still remember today, or something that maybe helped you in the future, or that you discovered as important?
I think I have a great memory of the entire year, all of it. Also, we had to do internship. Also, my internship, I had to go. I did my internship in Pontedera for the Polo Sant'Anna, the School of Engineers in Pisa in the robotics department. That was another fun experience. I think probably the dearest project that I have, maybe it was the final project, and I think the reason why I have a vivid memory because it was the only project you have to do by yourself, and was a lot to do. But also, I think it was very interesting because we had to really we had to collaborate with a company. In that case, was Fujitsu for my final project, and the theme was tools for the working environment and collaborations. And I remember that at the end, I came out with one of my project was about a little watch that had a camera, and you could talk to your colleagues when you needed help. And that was 2002, right? And so, and 10 years after, there is the Apple Watch, and there is all the, and I think that was one of my dearest projects because I realized how much creativity and how much freedom we got, and how much, how much we were really pioneer of certain things, and we really pushed our imagination, our creativity, and our thinking and logic beyond. So I really cherished the entire years because it got me to that point, and I only realized it 10 years after, right? Not when I was there, but 10 years after, when you see things coming out or project on, then I was like, oh, okay, I remember that.
The long tail, yeah.
I know.
And what happened after? So now we explored a bit your year in Domus, the Domus family, the project.
Yeah.
After you had the internship, and then so what happened?
What happened is, so I stayed in Domus as a tutor for 3 years, I think, until 2005. And then I think I decided to leave the nest, and I decided to explore probably my potential. Also, I think at that point, Italy, it wasn't yet, again, economical situation. It was very hard to find positions in companies that really were focused on interaction design. So I really wanted to explore more. So I packed everything, and I think on July 2005, I decided to move to the UK with no job, with no ideas of what was going to happen. And then I started my search and started looking for work. It was tough, it was tough because when you go away, you go somewhere, then you have few friends. I started staying with a friend of mine from Domus Academy. They used to be my student, and then became a friend, and he gave me a sofa where I could stay for the first 10 days just to acclimatize. So the Domus community is not only about work and professionally, and in creativity, is all about friendship and connections, and go beyond work. And then I think I spent a year working in a web agency, finally, when I finally found a job, long search. It was 6 months of searching, and after somebody gave me a chance, and but after a year, another friend from Domus, she was working at that time in from my same years of interaction design. She was already in London, and she was working as interaction design at Nokia, and she heard and they were looking for people.
Okay.
So she gave my name. I had an interview, and I guess I impressed them, and they gave me a job.
Okay.
And then I spent 12 years of my career in Nokia.
But did you move to Finland or from the UK?
No, they had an office in the UK. It was just outside of London. So for a couple of years we were commuting there daily, and then finally we moved into central London to have a better life. Yes, it was just like a horrible commute.
I know that you collected some projects you did.
Yeah.
You want to go through them now?
Sure. Where I don't see.
I can open them.
Okay.
Share now.
Well, I think these one are some samples of the work that I have done in 12 years of in Nokia, and I can say, well, you probably, when I joined Nokia, Nokia was #1 in the world for mobile phones. It was very famous. It was the best. And then we all the story. So Nokia changed, and now is a completely different company. But at that time, so I was working for a team that was focusing mostly on emerging markets, and so working for this operating system. Then it was a native Nokia operating system that was called S40, and that was the beginning. And we were actually focusing on country like Indonesia, Brazil, India, and we would really try to bring technology into these countries to make it very affordable in order to help to make you available the technology we have in our world every day, to make sure then your livelihood would improve. So this project is the Nokia X3 Touch and Type. It's actually a bit late. You can see from the image from 2010. And this was the first. So specifically for this project, we were trying to move. This was already after the iPhone was launched. So what we're trying to move from the touch phones where they had a keyboard and try to move into this hybrid kind of space, because we believed that at that time not many people knew or were comfortable with full touch, and also it was a matter of cost. So we thought we could merge and have the two technologies together. So the screen is actually a capacitive screen, and then the keyboard is a real mechanical keyboard. And that was the first time that we were trying to also change S40 from a full, very old operating system in a more contemporary. We were also trying to move Nokia into a new world, right? Not only specific these phones. And for this project, I was the lead of all the transition from the operating system. So as you can imagine, when you start, this was already like 4 years into my career in Nokia. Initially, you start with small project. You start with a little feature. And then slowly you get into more complex project, and you get more. You gain your trust as well from your colleagues and your managers, and you get given bigger project and bigger and bigger. So in this case, for me, was one of the biggest in 2010. Then when you get given a full redesign or readaptation as well. In some cases, it was reskinning, but you had to really think a new way of interact. It's before you had only, like buttons. Now you had buttons, and so how do you move your hands from one place to another to make it easy? And it was fascinating. Yes, I'm very proud of this project actually, and it was a super, very thin, slick phone, very affordable. I still have so many friends that they have it.
Tell me if you want to go on by yourself, or if I should move the slides. You should see.
Okay. Another one, and you tell me, 'cause I can speak forever. So this one is another. This was slightly few years after, and here again, I think this is a legacy of the work that I've done. I haven't worked fully on this project, but this is when we moved S40 into a full touchscreen phone. But I think the reason why it's very dear to me, this project, is because I don't know if you can see, but there are two SIM cards. There is 1 and 2 at the top, if you can see. So for years, I became the expert of dual SIM phones, and actually in how to enable and how to explain people how dual SIM worked. And this was really for emerging markets, because we studied our user, we studied who was living there and how we're using phones. And often there were the case of people having one phone for business and one for private life, or maybe is one phone in the family and there were many family members using the same phone, so you wanted to have 2 different SIM cards. So I became like the super duper expert of dual SIM. I've granted Nokia 5 patents for dual SIMs for the work that I've done. So I was really the to-go person. So I really became a specialized, dived very into it.
I know, and then it's still a topic, a relevant topic today. iPhone introduced it only probably one year ago, the dual SIM.
Yeah.
Still relevant topic.
Yes, very relevant, because it's still in Brazil. And I think what's fascinating of this project for me, and also be in such a big corporation, is I had a chance of traveling for work and getting to know people that were using my product, and actually asking them what they think about it and do user testing, right? And also before any launch, we were validating our assumptions with our user. So I got the incredible. I was very lucky. Then I had this possibility, right, to travel, to get to know the people, to understand their needs, to understand what they needed, and try to really design for them and to help them to improve and change their life. So that was, for me, is the beautiful aspect of working for a corporation, really getting to get to know the world and try to help to be a better place, also through technology, right?
Yes.
Let me see what I have next. Okay, so this is a whole different chapter. So, and actually this project is about Nokia and what Nokia wanted to become after the acquisition from Microsoft. And here I was already in California. So I moved to California in 2013, still with Nokia, to work on the new Nokia, what Nokia would have become after the acquisition with Microsoft. So part of Nokia was acquired by Microsoft. I stayed in the core Nokia group with a group of designers. I think the head of design was Axel Meyer, and some of the people in Domus know him very well. And actually, if you want to connect the dots, Axel Meyer was the sponsor of the other project in 2002. It was Nokia and Fujitsu. Okay. And I would never imagined in 2002 that I would have worked with Axel for, I don't know, 12 years, right? But so when I moved to California, Nokia had to reinvent itself. So I think, again, it was a new chapter, and we were very interested into sensor. I think it made sense because Nokia was all about connecting people and putting, made sense for the company to start looking into sensor and health. I think also has a brand, the trust that Nokia had. So we tried very hard to get into that field. And at a certain point, we acquired a little French startups called Wings. That they already had some of their watches and scales. and we start working with them. And what I did specifically in that during that time, I was the lead of what we call the program for improve and change behavior of our users. So we were really looking at the data that we were collecting, and we were trying to apply behavioral change and try to help to improve your health. So this specific one, and I think if you have now the Weeding apps, because I think Nokia and Weeding they split again, there are some of my work is still there. I developed 3 programs. Then they were really like 2 weeks or 8 weeks long, and so we had to really understand our data where people were struggling, interviewing people, and then bite size everything based on some of the theory of behavioral change. And that was another fascinating project because we world, right? I got very passionate about health actually, and maybe one day I'll go back to it. I don't know, but
Okay.
maybe I will. And then I think the last project, and then I left, and then I'm done. I'm done with Nokia. And then in 2018, I decided that again, it was very traumatic. You know, when you leave your family of 12 years to go to join another family, it was very bad. It was time to embrace a new challenge. It was time to also get to know a new culture because Nokia was a European company in the US, and I wanted to understand more about also the American culture. And then I had a friend of mine, again, there used to be a Nokia, put me in touch with some people in Google, and I succeeded again. And then I succeeded to get a position there. And since 2018, I've always been in the same team, which is Google Maps, and I lead a little effort, and it's called Reserve with Google, that I hope you all have used, that helps people, allows you to book appointments, restaurant tables, like dinner, through Google Search and Google Maps. And it's very relevant also, and very passionate about this project. What we're doing has been very relevant also lately. These 2 screens actually, the work has been launched maybe 4 weeks ago. And it was about really enabling some merchants to pivot their business from a physical, where you walk in store business, to let people know that actually pivoted and they moved into online, and then you could book appointments and classes that you could enjoy via Zoom or Hangout or whichever platform they were using. So this is actually been a very relevant and was very fulfilling also, because at a certain point during COVID, we felt all very like we didn't know what to do, right? Because it was such a unique moment in history. But this project, because we became very relevant, has a booking platform, right? To allow, now you cannot walk anymore freely anywhere, have to plan everything. So we became very relevant, and we saw from our data that businesses were pivoting, and then we were trying quickly, how can we help? How can we help to get you back on track and to make sure that you're not going to lose money, right? And you're still going to have your clients.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, also I actually noticed that during the lockdown, the app that I used less, or at least one of the apps that I used more, became different, because the Google Maps was one of them. I mean, I was not going out anymore, and I used it very few times. But yes, I didn't know about this integration. And,
you can do these searches from Google Search and Google Maps. You can. So we belong. local search and Google Maps, they belong to the same organization, so you can still find this information. But of course, yes, as you can imagine, nobody could leave, right? Nobody could leave the house. So yeah, it's tough times.
Okay.
Tough
But
times.
as we mentioned, COVID-19, and as you also work in a team with distributed in different parts of the world. We mentioned San Francisco and Zurich. So you already are dealing with, let's say, online and remote collaboration.
Yeah.
And we are experiencing it a lot lately in Domus, of course, also with our online classes. So do you have suggestions for our students? So both on how to cope, how to deal with this new situation, and also how to manage time and a new workflow.
Yeah, this is a very, thanks for the question. Well, I'm still learning myself. You're right. My team is divided in London, Zurich, New York. We have San Francisco, Seattle, Tokyo, Sydney. Right? This is where Google Maps is. So we have to deal with early morning meetings for Europe and very late in the afternoon for Japan and Australia. My main recommendation would be that I tell myself every day, build a routine, right? Really build a routine. Be kind to yourself, build a routine of just don't really shuffle out of your bed into your work, build your own routine, stay focused. But also when I say build a routine, make sure that you have an endpoint of your day as a person, or not as a designer, but also as a designer, because otherwise your creativity is going to get completely drained. Because I think there is no more space between school or office and work and private and work, right? So I think that routine should really help you to build that separation, because there is no more separation. What used to be your house, your sanctuary for your well-being, to recharge, to get your creativity, for reading, for designing, for drawing, whatever you were doing at home, is now not that place anymore. It's the place where you actually, you take calls and you work and you may be stressed. So build that routine. It really helps. Try to make that different. As a designer, we need to get that creativity and our brain to rest as well, because otherwise the risk is that you really incur in the burning down very fast. It's easier to say than do it, but that would be my recommendation. Or try to, what I think the best things, if you have to work with other people, try to find tools, and I'm sure that you have tools for collaborations. They're very good. And try eventually, if you have work in a group, try to have those grouped conversation together rather than have 6 meetings. You may want one meeting. It's difficult when you are the time zone doesn't really allow it, but at least when you can, try to really squeeze it in. And sharing tools, I think, anything. I haven't used PowerPoint or any other. Of course, we're using all Google tools, but Google Slides is a good way. You can build together several things, and I don't know. I think Keynote is doing the same. I'm sure. I don't know if there is PowerPoint Cloud now, but those kind of tools that allows you to build together if you're working together. And if you're not working together, I would highly recommend find a peer, find somebody to talk to and bounce ideas, because I'm a believer that design is not done in isolation. Design is done by bouncing ideas with other people and talking, and there is as much you can talk to yourself, but it's not the same. And listening and get also challenged by other people, right? And build upon each other, and you build and you get that momentum. It's the best things ever when you have that, that momentum. Oh well, do this and we're gonna do that. And this is what I loved of Domus. That was that was the core, right? That building together. And build also on the skills. And a certain point, we're like, okay, what do we do? Oh, you're good on this. You do this. Are you good at this? You do this. Yeah.
Okay, but and what about instead? Yes, we discussed a bit on the current situation, remote working, but also if you have suggestions for the career of our students or career of our future students. So not time. Now we discussed of being a designer, interaction designer into a certain company. But what about instead if you are not, if you want to pivot, or if you want to find a new job, or if you want to find the first job, maybe the first milestone in your career? Yeah, that's a very big question. It can go from social skills to portfolios and so on. But which suggest you told us that you went to the UK for the first time.
And that was a very interesting situation. That was very interesting because for the first time, I had to face myself with a culture that was very focused on a skill, one specific skill, and it was very different from the way how my education went. My education was like you can do anything. You're a designer 360. You can do interaction as well as interior and as well as visual design, and I had to face myself for the first time. I was like, no, you can. And people were very confused. Like, what do you do? Do you do all of this? Impossible. And I was like, oh. I was like, okay. Then it was the first time I actually had to face the reality and say, okay, I need to really get specialized in something or tell my story in a different way. So I think it's very important to understand when you look for a job, it's really important to understand who you're going to talk to and the company you're gonna talk to, and really tell the story based on your audience. So it's very important to understand who is your audience and then tailor that conversation around the audience and your skills, and also understand, like try to really think about what you're good at, and really that make sure that you showcase those skills and they know and you can communicate those. If you're not sure about what are your skills, I think again, work with somebody that helps you to have or can listen to your story, and they can help you to refine your story as well. That is something that I still do myself, right? Like sometimes it doesn't come like that. You need to prepare for something. You need to prepare your story and your audience and understand how to communicate, what you're saying. Definitely, there are many possibility of internship as well that you can apply for if you want to work for a big corporation. Corporation usually they offer internship. Then you can, and that is a good way for also understanding if a corporation is the world that you are interested in, because you may not be interested, right? Corporation can be complicated. There is a lot of machinery and lots of things moving, lots of pieces moving, and sometimes you're just a small piece in a bigger environment. So depends what kind of personality, what kind of work you want to do, right? My main advice in general is what I see, and I had it probably when I was younger, is just be patient, be creative, like be curious. I think curiosity for me is the main ingredients for really to become a great designer. Just never stop asking. Never stop asking yourself and other people why. Maybe I never moved from from the phase of when you're a kid and I keep asking why. But I think that helped me at least. Keep asking the good questions. And keep developing your skills, right? Sometimes also when you're in corporation, I think at the beginning of your career, you have big questions, but also understand that some of those questions you will be able to answer them maybe later on in your career. And sometimes some of the questions are really above our pay grade, that we're never going to change those things, but we can still make what we're doing very, very relevant and very important.
Okay.
Yeah. What
I
else?
guess there may be also questions from the audience, of course, if you have
Sure.
other questions about how to prepare for your interviews, or how to, or also about maybe the, let's say, the discipline of user experience, because it's something that, as we mentioned before, is something that you started working in that field when probably the discipline was not there yet, and
No.
you started to work in that field. Now that the field evolved, maybe it could evolve also in the next years, if you have also an overview of how the discipline may evolve, or how, let's say, how to be prepared for the next challenges.
Yeah. I feel, and I feel that we as interaction designers, or in general as designers, there is so much that we can do, right? So much that we can do and I think the process of how we think and the process of how we try to find solution, which is really understanding the users, the user needs, understanding where are the gaps, understanding the problems with empathy as well, and then try to formulate some solutions and evaluate them with people. This process is fundamental, and it can be applied to many fields, right? It can be applied to politics, to governmental redesign systems, right? As well as redesign a phone, a little object. So I think the beauty of this discipline, and is really scalable, and is just really understanding that this process and is very important to design what's around us, right? I think so. There is a lot of space for the future. It doesn't need to be, a bridge between a phone and a person, like the screen. I think when it started, interaction design was mostly focusing on artifacts and how to bridge that, the artifact to human, and it was very human centered, but it always had the screen. There was something, and I think it can go beyond that, right? It can go much more beyond that. It's a very fascinating time. It's very interesting. I think there is a lot of conversation in the US amongst myself and some of my design friends about how could design help also solve some of the problem of the government is facing now, right? And listening, that we have all these unfortunate riots, for the Black Lives Matter. Yeah. So, but how can design help to redesign a system that is better integrated, right? And then listen to all the voices, and then is more empathic, and then, help to address the problems. It will take time. For anything takes time, even for a phone. It takes over a year to design a phone and to release it. So we need to arm ourselves of patience.
We have one first question, Manuel, also because we are in the last part of our conversation. Terin, thank you for asking. So I'm interested in your user research, understanding the user needs process. I'm curious to know how you understand people from a different country with different cultures or needs to use the same products like Google Map.
This is the holy grail. Oh God. Well, we're very fortunate, and we have and also at Nokia, we were a global company, right? We're really, normally we have some hypotheses or some ideas, and we try to, and we send our researchers. There is a research team, then a very strong research team, and they help us to do what we call foundational research. And really understand, and it's more about behavioral and it is also a qualitative type of research. It's not about numbers, not about how many people like this woman, but it really, you go and observe people, and you go and observe their daily life, and with your product, and then you observe what are the barriers and what are the things that actually they go very well. I haven't traveled with Google recently to do that, but I've done a lot for Nokia. As I said, I went a couple of times in Brazil, and I was spending time with like farmers and see how they were using phones. But there was other four colleagues of mine. One was in Nigeria, one was in India, one was in another country. So at the end of this research, we were all getting together in London, and we were like, okay, what did you learn? And then we were analyzing all the learning and trying to make sure that we were respectful of all the needs that we encounter. It's a lengthy process. It's not like done at the snap of a finger, but it's very important. I think corporation allow you to have probably a longer research process than allows to really understand what people are doing, and also you can discover opportunities that you may have never thought because people use things differently. And also normally you try to have a global product, but sometimes you have to specialize to tailor it in certain countries, right? Like more than others.
Okay.
But I think research is the key. Research is the key. When you work for a startup, is probably you need to do research way faster. There is no also possibility of investment because normally there are some cost.
Okay.
I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, it was pretty clear. Thank you, Terin, for your question. If there are other questions, we have about 10 minutes with Manu. Okay.
Cool. Yeah, and also, and you can say, interaction design is not only designing a screen or designing something. There are many disciplines. So my team, for instance, we have a UX researcher, so that helps to really understand as the user, and also helps validate with user testing after we form an idea. Then we have writers, copywriters, and actually key for the tone of voice, for how to message something. And then we have content strategies, we have visual designers. To make a product, you need many skills, and all of us, they have a little, like they deepen one part of it, but together we make the whole. Again, maybe it's really about being a team, right? I don't think, what would a content strategist in domain do? Well, content strategies is very important to organize content. I can give you an example. Let me see. Well, understanding what was the content that is we need to showcase to make sure that people understand what your product is doing. For the product that we're working on, that I work on currently, we integrate several partners together in order to allow you to book something. But every partner has different content. And so in order to make the experience simple, understandable, and to make sure that every time you press that button, that experience is consistent, and you don't need to learn from scratch every time, we need to organize that content. And so it's a skill that I don't have. I know how important, and you take another person, you delegate to this other person, say, look, we have this problem. We have 40 sources of content. Can you please go analyze it and can help me? This is what I would like to do. This is my hypothesis. Can you help me to validate or tell me what they have that I missed, right? So this is why it's important. Of course, you don't need a content strategy all the time, but in certain cases, it helps. How do you apply service design in my job. Okay, how do I apply service design? Poof. That's a complicated. I think the way I probably apply service design in my job has a. I'm probably the moderator of. I'm trying to be actually the voice, or trying to use the process and service design in between engineers, product managers, and design. And I think this is how really we try to build, to use how I use the service design aspects that I learned into my world, right? But how really recognize who are all the different actors that I need to interact with in order to build this, right? And it can be, and what are the entry points? And so I need to take care of the entry points. I look at the journey. So there is many different axes that come together.
Shruti,
Yes.
Shruti owns the phone you mentioned.
Aha! Great! The position of being a lead in the project. Oh, so wait, the project. Okay, the level. What did you? To become a lead, I think. How do I apply? Do you become a lead when you have developed probably a deep knowledge of the discipline of the process, and you're shown how your success and how actually all the parts move together, right? Like, I think my voice, and I'm mentoring a designer in my team as a very young designer, and she was asking me similar questions. How do I, not like how to become you, but how do I become a lead, right? And I was like, okay, let me think about this. It's a very good questions. Because I had to go in retrospect and think about my path. And you're really about understanding the process, and initially probably you apply for something that is very small, maybe a feature, but then you understand it and you apply to bigger scopes, and also you become design. We are that glue between engineers and project manager. We are the people that makes everything happen, and we are the one that try to keep everybody honest to our users. Right? Like, at least this is the discipline that I embraced, and I want to be honest and loyal, and I'm always wearing the hat of our user and trying to keep everybody honest, not only the business, right? It's not everything that counts is the business. And I think the reason to become a lead is just, you're just evolving, experience, understanding more the process, and show that you connect the dots, and you're able to pull together many people and influence them. And it takes maybe sometimes. You're not going to become a lead tomorrow if you're starting. And again, you arm yourself with patience. Let me see. There are other two questions. Introduction designer. Sure.
I'm gonna read it also for the audience. Maybe I have a question. Today there's a huge demand for interaction designers, UI, UX designers in various fields. For you as a UX design lead, what qualities or skills are must-have for a freshly graduated interaction designer? Were there an intern or junior who impressed you during the position interview? What set him or her apart from other candidates? So, which is the wild.
The skills, must-have skills. As I said before, I think huge appetite for learning, and learning, empathy, and learning from our user. I think if you're interaction designer but you're not able to really understand your user, nobody will use your product, right? Nobody will use your product, and I think that is a miss. So, and yeah, curiosity, empathy, and also probably humility, being very humble, and is very for me are and I know them like there are not really skills and quantifiable or the teachers at school. I know, I know. Of course, you need to have all the basics that you have at school. You know, like Figma, all of that. That's for me is the basics. You need to have some of the skills. You don't need to be perfect. You will learn. You will use them every day. You will craft your skills and with any tool. As I craft my skill, how many software I had to learn since I started. Every year there is a new tool. You keep on evolving. Yeah, you have to keep updating yourself. But to be a great UX designer, I think, yeah, empathy, understanding the user, and try to keep your partners honest on it, and design with your heart as well. That for me is key, and this is the quality that I look when I also do interview for my team. Is very important. If you're not curious, why bother? Right. So I'm very direct, sorry, but like I think that for me is, and I guess you all are, because otherwise you wouldn't be here. So yeah.
Paolo is one of our teachers, project leaders. He's also moderated. I don't know if you know each other. I don't know, but
Not
Paolo
sure.
is okay. Paolo also moderated some of the previous talks. If there is, so he's asking if there is a proprietary Google design process beyond the research phase, which you already talked about before, that you have developed and use it on a regular basis.
Well, Google. Well, there is all a sprint book. Then some of the Google designer PMs they developed, which is really helps to bring all the partners together. Is sometimes I think the interaction design is a very interesting world. Like when I started, I thought, oh, I'm gonna change the world because I'm a designer. But hold on a minute, there are product managers as well. They're define the product. So your best friend is the product manager, and I think design sprint. I think is also a book, and you can probably Google. I think there are some videos as well, and they teach you how to organize brainstormings of sprint. Sprint is like the yes, Jake Knapp. I have the book here also, but I don't in front of me. But they really help you to organize and to do brainstorming with people then from different background, and to make sure that you all start and you all share the same knowledge from the beginning of the project, and you all believe in the same project. Because if you don't do those kind of fundamental part, you're gonna end up then one person will start thinking about a different way about the project, and you're going to start thinking about another way. So when you have that moment when you do this sprint together, you spend 4 days thinking about understanding research, understanding my point of view, understanding your point of view, where you're coming from, understanding and listening. Is really like the first day is about listening. And when you listen, right, you take notes, and you try to understand, you get inspired, and then normally, like then you diverge, you start creating quick ideas, and then you converge again and you talk about these ideas. I highly recommend to read that book, and it's a good tool. Then you can use when you also work with your colleagues. It's not only between different cross-functional teams, but also amongst designers. We just do it ourselves. Other tools, Agile, I've used it more rigorously in my last period at Nokia, and if it works, can be fantastic. But I think for me, it worked very well because we were doing like a kind of experiment instead. Was it like T-Rex? So difficult to make changes very fast. So I was very fortunate when I was developing those behavioral change programs. Then we were the selected 5 people, and we were just working in isolation, and we were on a sprint of Agile of 2 weeks. It was very important, And it's very important, I think, in general, to be candid with the people you work with. Not rude, but candid. Like, if there is any problem, if I'm blocking you, tell me, because if you don't tell me, I would never know. And I'd rather you tell me so I can help you rather than build up your frustration, right? Like, because it's that fault. No, I think we are all there on the same boat. We're all want the same. We all want to ship this product. So if there is no communication, it's going to be hard. Paola, I hope I answered. I don't think it's a mix, right? Yeah. Yes. Italian design. Italian design. I'll bring my Italian design. Always.
Okay. Interesting session. I don't know if there are other questions. We reached 7 p.m. So
I can probably say 5 minutes if there are other questions, but after, unfortunately, my working day is starting.
Of course. Yes, so the favorite quote from Terin is, "Be curious, don't stop asking yourself and other people why." There are also some of your friends around.
Yeah, there's my dad as well. Hi, Dad.
No, I see also some students from previous batches of Master Interaction Design. There's Shripriya, Yada, Ramsha, thank you for being here. I may miss someone, but maybe I don't recognize some of the names, but thank you for joining. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, and thank you for having me. I hope you guys helped. It's a long, steep walk, but I think UX design is an incredible discipline. So, and can open many doors. And thank you, Domus. I wouldn't be here without Domus, right? So thank you very much, Domus Academy, for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Manu. Good luck to all our students for their next career. And also for the new ones that you may join, I hope they will join Domus in the upcoming months. So
I highly recommend. Highly recommend. It really changed my life, right? So, and something that maybe we have a chat. We started a chat during COVID with, I don't know, all the 2002 people from Domus Academy. We're all friends. We did already a Zoom call and 40 people. We were chatting. So, yeah, is I have to say, everywhere I lived, there is always somebody from Domus. Which is great. All right.
Thank you, Mark. I don't know if you we should end in some specific way. Like, are we?
You tell me.
I guess we're done. So thank you very much, Manuela. Thank you very much for telling us your story and for sharing it with the students. So I guess that's it. Thank you. Grazie Michele. Grazie molte.
Grazie Giuseppe. I hope you will pass by again, pass by Milan. I don't know when it will be possible again.
I think tell my dad probably wants to go want me to go and visit. Until I think the people from US are not allowed yet there because our COVID numbers are going up like a skyrocket. But as soon as we're going to be allowed to travel, hopefully, and it's going to be safe, I hope to get back home as well.
Okay, take care and
thank you very much. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Ciao,
Bye.
Manu. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao. Ciao. Bye.